want to tell them, dude, you don't want to be me, 'cause what you're looking at here is 50 years. It's really 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
What you see here didn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
It's taken a lifetime to get to this point.
And welcome to another episode of the Bandit Room. My name is Charles. I'm joined here in the studio today by Mr. Caleb.
Hello again.
Thanks. And across the table from us, we have Mr. John and Jay Leake. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, good to be
Thank you for
here.
having us.
Appreciate that. Now, you guys are the proprietors of Leake Furniture Makers, or is that used to be known as Leake Antiques?
That's correct. It's
Okay.
one and the same.
One and the same. Okay. Fantastic. So you guys are the proprietors of a 4-generation family business right here in York, South Carolina. Currently, that involves the making of furniture. It originated as an antique store. Is that right?
That's correct. So Jay and I are the third and fourth generations, same family, and technically kind of sort of the same business, but we phased out the antiques a number of years ago in favor of furniture making. But we're in the same building, same
Gotcha.
people.
Same people.
Nothing's changed. in
Same
that
names
respect.
even.
That's correct.
John Leake.
That's right. That's right.
And you guys are John and Jay. That's just to tell you apart, right? Just so
That's
you,
right. We had a time there when my grandfather was still living and my father,
Right.
and of course Jay and myself. We had four
For John
living
Leakes.
John Howard Leakes, so we had to have a little way to distinguish that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the history. So it started in, was it the 50s?
1956 is what we mark as the formal start. That's when they built the building that we use now as our showroom.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a farmer by trade, but his mother was a big antique collector. So that's where my grandfather probably got the bug from. So while he was farming and was out in the outlying areas with hauling feed and seed and stuff like that, he started buying and selling antique pieces. My grandmother told me one time he came home with a big sideboard tied down on the sacks of feed on the back of his truck. And so that's kind of where it got started, and that was in
Okay.
early 50s.
So it's kind of like a side project, flipping furniture sort
Right.
of thing. Like, was it you're going out specifically looking for antiques that you think you could like sell at a higher price, or was he like making renovations to it? And
Man, who
Flip it
knows?
in.
My
Yeah.
grandfather, he was a tough guy, like most people of his generation, fought in World War I, lived through the Depression, knew what hard work was all about, and who knows? I'm just thinking he probably had that bug in him already from his mother. But my dad had his own shop, his own building. They could share some things, but they each had their own space. Then he added a third building in the 70s to warehouse more of the what we would call as-found antiques before they were cleaned up, repaired, refinished.
Gotcha.
But so we still, Jay and I, work in those same three buildings. We warehouse lumber in that original warehouse. Then we work in what was my dad's shop, and then we display in what was my grandparents' shop.
okay. And before you got really involved in the family business, you were teaching shop. Is that right?
I sure was.
Okay.
I was up in Gaston County. Believe it or not, I got a college degree, went to Appalachian State, managed to graduate on time, too. People look at me and say, that ain't possible, but it did. And so I wasn't quite graduated, but on the short rows.
Yeah.
And Gaston County called up there to Appalachian to the Industrial Arts Department, which is just a fancy word for shop. Said they needed a shop teacher to start in January of 1977. So I was graduating in December of 77. So it worked out well. And I taught shop at two different schools up there till about 83. And by all accounts, I had a pretty good career. It was a short career with them, but pretty good as a shop teacher. I just couldn't get those kids to like it like I did. And after 6 or 7, 8 years, whatever it was, I decided to give it up. And so 83 is when I left the school system. So
Gotcha.
that's been 41 years ago. Hey, if I'd have stayed, though, I'd be retired and drawing a little pension right now. But now I
You
got to
went the-
work till I drop.
You went the harder route.
Yes, right.
It's harder to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I came to a fork in the road and I took it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's probably the right path for you then.
I don't know.
I don't. You don't know. As far as furniture making goes, were you the one that kind of introduced that, or did your father do that as well?
Jay and I are the first furniture makers in the family. I guess technically I am. Then comes along Jay. When I took over the business, it was Leake's Antiques, and we still trade. That's our official name. I do that out of tribute to my parents and my grandparents. When I first took it over, I bought and sold some antiques. I guess I had that type of bug in me myself.
Yeah.
But I was also making furniture.
Sure.
And after a few years, it was just real hard to do both. It was kind of like having two different businesses under one roof. So anyway, I phased out the antiques. It's got me here. It's been 40-something plus years.
Yeah. Well, how long do you think it was before you became what you would say like great at what you're doing?
I don't know if I'm still great.
You're not
yet,
sure if you are.
But I mean, there's a lot of trial and error and all this stuff. So if you go back 40 plus years, there was no YouTube.
Right.
There was no internet.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything. The only learning you could get was out of books and a few trade journals, and there were very few of those.
Yeah.
So those early years were tough. I spent a lot of time researching things, and then, of course, trial and error. This works, that doesn't work. That's going in the wood stove. This is going on the shelf, kind of a thing.
You learn pretty quick what
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
work.
and you typically don't forget your mistakes.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that goes the way you want to that you don't tend to remember.
Yeah. Now, you guys work. Let's talk a little bit about the style of furniture that you guys create over there. So, what kind of styles do you say you work in currently?
Well, you gonna let Jay talk, or I want to do all the talking?
Whoever likes to
Well,
talk.
we work in. Jay can elaborate on it for me. We're real into 18th century American furniture.
Right.
I've lived in the 18th century all my adult life. That's why I find myself being dragged, kicking and screaming into the 21st century. So we work in those, and the 18th century is pretty much regarded as the golden years, the 100 years of when all the furniture designs were developed and known, all those things you hear about, William and Mary, Queen Anne, Chippendale, Hepplewhite, Sheraton, those people. Most of that they were furniture designers, but those are the people that developed the styles which are still used today. Yeah. They get real watered down, but you can't reinvent that wheel. That wheel was made 250 years ago, but you can manipulate the wheel a little bit, but that's what we mostly do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You better talk to Jay a little bit.
Yeah, Jay, feel free to jump in.
Good. I'm used to it.
Well, I get a little chatty.
He's just well, it's fascinating. When you're working on a new piece, are you typically working with what a client's like asking for, or are you kind of giving suggestions to the client saying, I think this kind of thing is what you need? Or
a little bit of both there.
Yeah.
It's a collaboration.
Yeah. For sure.
We want whatever we do. If you come to us and you want a table made, we want it to be your table, not our table. So we want as much input from you as we can get.
Gotcha.
But we still going to maybe guide you a little bit and hold the reins on you if we can pull them back if we need to. But
the first thing we would do is show them the stuff in our showroom.
Gotcha.
And they might say, oh, that's exactly it. Or here lately they're going to say, oh, that's not the style at all I'm looking for.
Right.
So that's where the internet comes in. You say, well, just show us a picture. You know, print out a picture, and then we play with sizes, dimensions. And there's some things that people see on the internet that just can't be done in a small shop like ours.
Sure.
You know? But that's where we can kind of guide them and steer them to hopefully get to where they want to be at the end.
Sure. And it is at the whole operation is the two of you.
Yep.
Correct.
You're looking at
You're
it.
looking at
Right now, there's nothing going on over in our
I know
shop.
it's just driving you crazy. I could tell.
We all shut down. Yeah, but as Jay we're going to tell you, we make everything to order.
Yeah.
We have nothing for sale.
Yeah.
So when you come over there, we've got our showroom with 35 or so pieces in it that represent different styles, different woods, different periods.
Yeah.
So we do not have to start from scratch, but we still quite often do start with sketches or something off the internet to give us a place to make this piece special for the individual.
Right. And let's talk about the kind of being a two-person operation. What is the kind of production capacity? Like how would you describe your output?
Slow.
Short. Yeah. Well, 90% of the time we're making one piece. Every now and then we might be working on two pieces, two smaller pieces, or two of the same piece. If we've got two pieces on order that they're out in Texas or somewhere like that. So it just makes sense that we at least have them both finished and take them at one time. So that might mean working on them at the same time or splitting time. Even though if we have two pieces going in the shop, we're not devoting any more time to one or the other. They both get their individual attention that they need so it sort of doubles the time. But a lot of times on the pieces that we make, it makes sense to make more than one. While you spend 15 minutes setting up a machine to cut a part out in 5 seconds. So you might as well cut a couple of those parts out since you spend all that time setting up. So
makes sense.
But we don't always get to do that.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I read an article in a magazine, believe it or not, because this has been 45 years ago, and it said you'll never make any money in a small shop making one piece of furniture at a time. And I said, I'll be darned. Well, I'll tell you what, it's exactly right. It can't be done. That's why I'm still working.
That's why you're still
almost 50 years later.
Yeah.
But what we have both find that is production type work is not our thing. We like that one-off piece. What we want to do is get in our head this particular, Jack and Jill in our head, and that's who we're working for. And anyway, we're kind of old-fashioned and hokey-pokey about that, but we think that at the end it makes for a better piece, and we develop a great relationship with that person.
And you're making something that's going to stand the test of time.
Correct. Right. This is a generational stuff. This is not something you're going to throw away next year.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the types of pieces that you make. We've referred to the general thing that you guys make furniture, but let's talk about some of the most commonly requested items or things that you particularly like to make.
Kitchen tables, dining room tables. We're finishing up a set of 10 dining room chairs right now. Wow. It's the first time we've made a set of chairs in probably 10 or 15 years. Wow. Seems like. Yeah. It's been a big ongoing project. It's been a better part of a month we've been working on them. But cupboards and lots of beds. We make what's called a cellarette or a bottle case. It's probably our most popular thing that we make.
Okay.
Holds your whiskey bottles.
Yeah. We need one.
Yeah, you sure do. I'm looking at those.
I think it'd look great right there.
Yeah, a field bar.
It would be sitting there. It'd be a whole lot prettier than that thing.
But that's stuff that we prefer to make.
Yeah.
Period pieces, but we don't always get to do that. So especially here in the last 4, 5, 6 years, tastes are changing and trends are changing, and so it might be a more modern farm table with heavier legs and chunkiness.
So you would, if somebody comes to you and said, I want this kind of modern farmhouse kind of vibe, something that's not exactly 18th century. you'd still like do your best to kind of come up with your version of that.
You darn right.
You darn right.
Yeah,
You don't say like, we don't do that kind
Well,
of
they
thing.
got to be working.
You got to be working. Yeah.
You
Somebody,
don't
if
always
somebody's-
get what you want. That's just the way life
And
is.
that's where we guide them, and they might show us this picture of a modern farm table.
Sure.
And it's got these just astronomical turn legs. That
Right.
It's just not, some of it's not feasible for us to do. So we may have to
Gotcha.
water it down a little bit, or they may have to go in a whole different direction, as in
Different version of
not us. Or, but hopefully we would like to, if at all possible, make it, you know, but we are limited at times on certain crazy big pieces. And
Sure,
all. But,
sure.
Yeah, that particular leg may have been cut out on $1 million molding machine that
Yeah.
can do all kind of crazy
Oh,
stuff,
right. And if you're gonna
multi-axle stuff.
Pump out 1,000
We
of
got
them or
real
something,
good
but-
machinery, but it's your basic stuff that requires an operator to actually push the wood in there and make it cut.
Yep,
We
yep.
don't have CNC and
Right.
anything like that. We don't want it, but
So what are of the pieces you've described, like what's kind of the turnaround times for some of these things? What would be like a relatively quick production, and what would be like a more long-term, long process to create?
It takes us probably on average, if we had to average most of the stuff that we do, somewhere in that 2.5 week range.
Okay.
You know, it just depends on the project. These chairs, we're going on about a month, 4 weeks anyway, 3.5 to 4 weeks. So
Gotcha.
if it was a bottle case, that's, you know, it takes about 80 hours, 80 to 100 hours.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might take us 3 weeks to get that 80 hours.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Sure.
yeah, you know, we're a 2-man band, and so
Yeah.
we're not in there like right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way we want it.
Yeah.
We don't want Tom, Dick, and Harry
Yeah.
working on your stuff
Right.
because you don't want Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Right.
We like to think the reason you came to us to begin
They wanted
with.
John Leake to do the project.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
And we don't have
Right.
a little small army sitting back here whacking this stuff together.
Right.
So that means a lot to us, and it means a lot to most of our customers too. They're willing to wait,
Yeah.
and so sometimes the phone rings. Sometimes people drop in to see us, and that may kill an hour and a half. You never know.
Yeah.
So that 40-hour job can take us easily 2 weeks to have to do. So instead of making $10 an hour, we only make $5.
Right. So you mentioned the cellarettes, and that's one of the things that really got you guys some attention for that feature in Garden and Gun magazine. For people who aren't familiar with the whole concept of what a cellarette is, you talk a little bit about that, about what it is, where you got the inspiration for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this Cellaret was designed, built in the South, and it had one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to lock up and house your whiskey. You were doing pretty good if you had whiskey and you needed some place to store it. So they thought so much of the alcohol, and it was so important in their everyday life. First thing they did was shared their drinks or offered you a drink when you came to visit. So they developed this one particular piece that just had one purpose, and that was to house the whiskey. So the coldest place in the house was the cellar. So the cellar, if they had one, was where they kept any barrels of maybe something they had brewed up or acquired somewhere, and in barrels. So they kept that spare whiskeys and rum punches or whatever they had down in the cellar. So when they're decanters, and they were using square decanters, not these round bottles like what we have now. They were, in the approximate size of 4 inches square decanters that were hand blown. And the cellaret had partitions down in it. So it's basically a cubed shape box that has a lid that lifts up. And when you look down in that box, ours have 12 cubbies, 12 partitions down in there that will hold 12 bottles, roughly 4 inch by 4 inch square.
Gotcha.
And so when if you had a cellaret, you were already a Southern gentleman. And when the decanters would empty, the man of the house and his help would lift the cellaret. The case lifts off the stand, and they would carry it down to the cellar to refill all the decanters. And that's where the term cellaret came from. It was usually referred to as a bottle case.
Gotcha.
Bottle case is usually what it's commonly referred to.
Cellaret sounds fancier.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
But they were made mostly, always in the South. Mostly, what was it?
Eastern Virginia and Eastern North Carolina, where the bulk of them came from, and down through the Piedmont of South Carolina.
Okay.
So it's right through our area here.
How did you guys first become aware of cellarets? Was it something you studied academically? You've seen them in person? You've seen them
You know, cellaret, so you got to remember this. This furniture form goes way back before pre-bottled whiskeys.
Yeah.
That's when everybody made their own. And as Jay said, those were in kegs and crocks down in the cellar.
Yeah.
Not very conducive to entertaining because you didn't want to lug up 100-pound jug of stuff.
Yeah.
So the cellaret goes back hundreds of years, and it just gave them an opportunity. I don't know how the first one came along.
Yeah.
But somebody said, duh, let's do this. Let's make a wooden box.
Yeah.
And they're going to partition it off.
It's meant to be mobile.
It's kind of looking down inside an old Coca-Cola crate.
Sure.
So the bottles, as they were carrying the case up and down the steps and cellar, they didn't bang around. They stood up, so you lifted them out. So it's arguably the most unique furniture form on the planet because it only had, as Jay said, one purpose, and that was to lock up and to house the whiskey.
Yeah.
It's extremely rare to find a nice old cellaret that still has its partitions in there, that hadn't been converted into something else, maybe even has a bottle or two still in there. You're talking about $50,000 and up.
Wow.
And a lot of them have flown under the radar. They're just, I don't know, they're very, very unique piece of furniture.
Yeah.
And we got onto them. I mean, I've known about them for years and years and years, but only got a chance to build one probably about 30 years ago. It's still in our shop right now. The date's on it somewhere. So I'd admired them, and I had a fella come along and said, I want something different. I want a cellaret.
Yeah.
And so I know exactly what you're talking about. And so made one for him, made one for us.
Yeah.
And he's since passed away, but his widow still has that cellaret, and of course I still got mine. But that's how it came along. And then we been making them for a number of years. And then when Garden and Gun out of Charleston had their annual Made in the South contest, they had 3 or 4 categories of, you could do textiles, you could do refreshments, you could do furniture. We thought, well, look at here.
Yeah.
We got the surefire winner for that thing. We got the most classic Southern piece of furniture on the planet.
Yeah.
Made in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And the magazine comes out of Charleston. This has got to be a win thing for us. So we took some real good pictures of it and sent it to them.
Yeah.
And weeks went by. We got this beautifully written note from them, man. It was written. I wish we had it. He said, well, we love your piece, but it's not the winner.
Okay.
So we were like, how can this be? But we do want to follow up with a feature story. So the prize for the contest was $10,000, I think. Jay and I were thinking, that's 5 for you, 5 for me. I'm going to put air conditioning in my house. But when we got the letter, said, no, but we'll send it. And so they sent a writer up there, spent a day with us, did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
They sent a photographer, did another fantastic job. So at the end of the day, we actually won the contest.
Sure.
Because it's a national publication.
Yeah.
And if you can see our little hole-in-the-wall shop, we just weren't really quite prepared for a national exposure. And we didn't know exactly what day or even particularly what week or month this article was going to come out.
Yeah.
Because publications run so far ahead and all
Sure.
that. So one day our phone started ringing, and we just got one phone, one line,
Yeah.
and we couldn't even put it down and get our hand off. It'd ring again.
Oh, man.
And then thankfully we had email stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that screen was all but smoking, and so we figured out the article had come out.
Yeah. Became
And
evident.
so
yeah.
we didn't even cut the lights on in the shop for a week because we couldn't get off the phone.
You're just talking to people.
And so, but and then too, so because we were not prepared for that, we didn't really have too much information we could send them. It's like, oh, we get back to you on
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
it all worked out well. We probably made over 100 of them, haven't we, Jay?
Probably 125-ish.
120 or 30 of them over a period of what's
Since
that been?
2014.
Yeah, okay, about 10 years' time.
Yeah, yeah.
Got them all over the country, up and down the eastern coast, seaboard, west coast, Midwest. It's been a fun thing. We still enjoy building them because we use beautiful, beautiful wood. We save our best walnut for these pieces.
Nice.
They're 15, 16-inch wide boards with fabulous grain patterns in them that we hold back, set back just for that piece. And I guess it's because Jay and I are both just real fond of being Southerners. And this piece of furniture is just so quintessential Southern that we like to put our best of everything into that thing.
Yeah,
It's a pretty unique piece.
Yeah.
We still make them. We got the lumber dragged out yesterday for the next one we're going to be doing.
Okay. Now, how do you source when you say like you save like your best walnut for that kind of piece? Like, where do you find great pieces? Or is that something you can't talk about? It's trade secret.
I tell you, but if we tell you, we might have to
You're
kill you.
not just going to Home Depot and picking stuff out.
No, but we might have to kill you if we reveal our
If you
source.
reveal your source.
From the woods, man.
Okay.
Where does everybody get their
okay.
lumber from?
All right.
No, we have one dealer that specialty dealer. He's up in
Gotcha.
Pennsylvania, and they specialize in nice, beautiful hardwoods that are furniture grade that you can't get it anywhere else besides a specialty lumber company, which is
Right.
what they are.
Okay.
So they have categories of different thicknesses and widths and lengths and products from walnut to tiger maple to cherry. They have some mahogany, some true mahogany that they have acquired somewhere because you can't get mahogany anymore. They're not cutting it,
Okay. So talk about that a little bit.
It's an import product that if you find mahogany these days, it's a lot of it there's some African mahogany, but it looks similar. It doesn't have some of the same density
Gotcha.
as true.
Mahogany is a rainforest product.
Yeah.
So it's caught up in deforestation issues.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not as readily available. Not a true mahogany.
Okay. The
If
term
you get
the term gets thrown around a lot, almost as
does.
just like a descriptor for like,
Right.
oh, it's an old wood, must be mahogany or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that's sort of the. But so
Yeah,
you're saying it's
there's some
very
other
rare to
stuff
find
that's
that.
kind of sort of substitutes.
Yeah.
We don't use much mahogany, but if we do need some, our supplier in Pennsylvania has some, and the only reason he has some is because he is a master at procurement of lumber and logs. So he would have located a nice big boxcar load of it that's maybe been sitting somewhere for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
That's the only reason that's the only reason anybody's going to have any.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite wood to work with?
Probably walnut.
Yeah.
Walnut and cherry. We love cherry. Hell, we like it all,
Yeah.
Love tiger maple, like the way it looks. Sometimes we don't like the way tiger maple machines and cooperates. But walnut, probably walnut is our
Yeah.
favorite. It's
If we couldn't
naturally
have
dark.
one wood, we'd want it to be walnut.
Yeah.
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 It's a native wood.
Yeah. Is it hard to find? Is it something that used to be more plentiful?
Walnut is a very slow growing tree, slower than most. It's the first one to lose its leaves in the fall, the last ones to put them on in the spring. It stays dormant longer than most. So to find a big walnut tree is a special find, and that's where our guy up in Pennsylvania, that's his thing. He's got a very small niche market, but he has got a network of people that he knows where to get them. And we can get walnut as wide as this tabletop right here.
Wow.
We got some that's close to it. Matter of fact, we got a table to build for some nice people right here in Rock Hill that's going to be what we call it a book match. It's 2 boards that would open up like a book, so the grain is going to repeat on both sides.
Okay.
And those 2 boards are 23 or 24 inches each. So his 2 board top's going to be 40 something inches wide.
Wow.
And 8 feet long. I mean, it'll be killer. I've had those boards before Jay came to work with me, so I am so excited about getting to finally see them, because I know what's going to be possible with them to get. I mean, we can make a 3-board top table quite often, and it still be big boards, but a 2-board top, that's a super special. I'm so excited for myself. I'm also excited it's going to stay right here in York County.
That's cool.
It's a killer thing. It will be.
Now, you referenced having clients, all over. Was that Garden and Gun piece kind of the beginning of people from all over inquiring for furniture from you? Or
Absolutely.
was it primarily local customers before that?
Yeah, I would say kind of regional.
Yeah.
We got a lot of work down over the years. I mean, we're talking year 41 here now.
Yeah.
So over 4 decades, Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Washington, but they most nearly always had ties back to York County. Somebody grew up in Rock Hill, moved to Washington. Somebody grew up in Rock Hill, moved to Greensville. So prior to the Garden and Gun article, which is a national thing,
Right.
our work was, we like to think of it as regional,
Yeah.
but mostly local. But that put us on a national
Yeah. And
stage.
then after that, you got called up by another
Ooh,
another
I'll let
interesting
Jay
one.
tell you about that.
Yeah. So
President Trump's, when he was in office, the White House was looking for gifts to give to visiting dignitaries and heads of states, and
Prime ministers.
ministers, yeah. And they had a third party reach out to us to see about building a series of boxes for them that they had in their collection in the State Museum up there, the State House Museum. And it was a walnut box that they sent pictures of and the sizes, and it had lots of inlay on it. So we ended up making about 20 boxes, 5 sets of 4 sets of 5 or something like that, and made them for the White House to give to people that were visiting
dignitaries.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're all over the world.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt there's not one in Russia and one in China.
Yeah.
So
That's
the question we always get is how you get a job like that. So we don't really know.
Yeah.
We just thought that because we have furniture, as I mentioned earlier, in Washington,
Yeah.
people that grew up right here.
Yeah.
And so we just figured that if you live in Washington or Maryland or Virginia, Washington, D.C. is a company town, and you either working there or you know somebody that works there.
Right.
So we just figured our name got dropped.
Yeah.
If somebody at the State Department say, hey,
Or they went to
so and
somebody's
so
house.
over there is looking for somebody to do some boxes, and our name got dropped. And so that's how that came along. Was it a phone call or something one day?
Yeah, I believe it was a phone call.
Did you think they were serious at first when
Well,
they said, "Hey, we got a call from the White House"?
It was another. So the White House didn't directly call.
Okay.
And it wasn't like the
Gotcha,
caller ID said the White House.
Sure. It's like
But
the president's on the line.
Right.
Sure.
But it was a shock because
Yeah.
he was not there
Yeah.
or somewhere else, and it was great.
Yeah.
And then that so we had a little connection there with the White House building those boxes, a series of boxes. So when when the Trumps were going over to England in 2019 for their official visit over there, the First Lady was going to give the Queen a brooch, a handmade brooch made by Tiffany and Company that they were having made. And they needed a little box to house this brooch so that they could put this inside of another box, a leather box, to present to the Queen. So they said they would send us some wood. That first they wanted to. When they first contacted us about it, I just remembered hearing that there was a tree that they had to have taken down off the White House lawn. Okay. And sure enough, that's the tree they thought they wanted to use for the wood in it. But of course, it was a couple weeks old. So that wasn't going to work. So, they said that they came up with the wood, as in the White House. And they sent us a bundle of strips of wood. They said it came from somewhere off the grounds, and gave us about 3 days after everything went back and forth on size, dimensions, get this right, that right, get everybody's ducks in a row. We were able to start on like a Monday, and it had to be going out the door on about a Wednesday or Thursday to get on. Checked out to get on the airplane to get on. The
Trumps were landing in England on Monday, so they wanted to have the box back in Washington on a Thursday, but we didn't get the wood till Monday.
Right.
It's typical government. I think what happened there too is like, we got this beautiful brooch.
Yeah.
Darn, what we gonna put it in? A shoebox? Duh. So all of a sudden, somebody must have said, well, these guys down there in York have been making these other boxes. Let's see if they can make us a box. Yeah. Which we did. Jay did all the work on the box. It's beautiful. It's one of a kind. It's only 3 by 5 by 2 inches. It just held a small. Yeah. We never saw the brooch. But they gave us specifications of the size. We had to pad it with beautiful black velvet, and it had an image of the White House. We had to get it lasered in there, of the White House circa 1812 before the British.
Thought that was an interesting detail there. That request came from their side on that? Yeah.
Oh, they had 2 other things. So, see, the wood, they didn't identify that wood for that special box. But we know our woods, and it was basswood. Yeah. We could tell. And basswood is a premier carving wood. That's about all you do with it. Duck carvers, bird carvers. Also, the Queen's Castle, Windsor Castle, was full of basswood carved up. So there was 2 connections. The third thing, guess where the formal name for basswood is a linden tree. Okay. Guess where it originated? England. Okay. So somebody on Mrs. Trump's team had thought this thing through. I don't think it'd be 3 coincidences about the source in the wood, the type of wood, the image, all that. So it was well thought out. They just didn't think of it but about 4 days before they needed it.
But they figured it out.
We went into scramble mode. You would think there's plenty of time to build a little box, but it's not. Because it had to have some hardware and stuff like that, and of course finishing, getting all that done. It's a beautiful little thing. And we were so freaked out over it that we had for all the work that we've done for the State Department and or the White House, they just, whatever you call it, they send us a label. Yeah. And the label doesn't say White House, obviously. Sure. But they had already sent us a label. We had a box sitting there to put the little box in. I said, shoot, Jay, we better take a picture of this thing. So in the very last second, we threw out a cover over the workbench and took a couple of pictures of it. We wouldn't even had a picture.
That's the only pictures of it there are.
Yeah, right? That's it. It wasn't a photo shop. I mean, a photo studio. It was just open our workbench, sitting there on the bench. Yeah. But it was pretty exciting. Yeah. And it didn't hurt us. We had a lot of publicity from it, and which is fun. You know, it didn't hurt. That's cool. And we were thrilled about it because, you know, a lot of people could have made that box. I mean, it was dovetailed up, beautiful box. Mm-hmm. And we picked out the best pieces of wood out of the little box of wood they sent. But the fact that it was made in our little shop,
Yeah.
in our little town, in our little county,
Yeah.
in a relatively rural state, we were really honored to be able to do that.
Yeah. That's
It's
fantastic.
a pretty big deal, really.
Yeah.
It's an international thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You should be very proud. It's such a cool story.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. You should have seen us though. We was in scramble mode. I ain't kidding you. I think some of the finish was drying as we put it in the box.
I believe it.
Across America, nonprofits just like yours trust Tax 990 to e-file their 990 returns. We make it super easy to fill out your return, allow other members of your organization to approve the return, and even check your return for common errors. Create a free account today at tax990.com.
And we're back. We've got a glass of the Aberlour from our
That's very good.
from our not cellarette, just from our drink cabinet. So cheers, guys. Thanks for joining
Cheers.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is great, guys.
was a nice
this is
surprise.
A very nice surprise. I was a little hesitant about this thing because I've never done anything like this, and didn't know you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did a little research. I
Sure.
couldn't figure out exactly what you did do.
I know we tried
So I was
explaining a
a
little bit as
Yeah, and so you got to remember too that I come from the old school, and I didn't grow up with podcasts, computers.
Sure.
We had a calculator, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So I'm still stuck in that mode, and,
Yeah.
and Jay will tell you it's hard to get me out of that mode.
Well, and you're working a job too that hasn't changed either. So I mean, it's kind of a beautiful thing though.
Yeah, so I'm real conservative, but I try not to let my old ways get in the way of making progress.
Sure.
But I hold on to them as much as I can.
Yeah.
Because,
You don't hold on. You don't. Have
I
anything.
do. That's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me. But anyway, this is great.
Well, I appreciated what you guys do because y'all are doing amazing things, and from an unassuming location, we kind of relate to that a little bit. We do a lot of stuff, and we're sitting there in a strip mall in Rock Hill. Most people don't know what the heck we are.
That's
but,
right.
We got,
Us included.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. but across the U.S., we got tons of thousands of clients and people using our service, but we enjoy that sort of unassuming
Yeah,
aspect as
we
well.
get people that come into our shop that are maybe weekend woodworkers, hobby woodworkers, want to be a woodworker,
Yeah.
and they see us in there. We see our shop is not real large. It's about 1,200 square feet. It's pretty small, but it's very well equipped. We got good commercial tools and equipment that I've had for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And so they see all that, and they go like, I want to be you. And I want to tell them, dude, you don't want to be me. 'Cause what you're looking at here is 50 years. It's really 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
What you see here didn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
It's taken a lifetime to get to this point.
Yep.
And I just try to be brutally honest. I don't want to discourage them, but I'm not sure I want to encourage them either.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because it's not easy, especially like I mentioned a while ago, just making one piece of furniture at a time.
Yeah.
We're in a very minute niche market. You can get stuff that we make at IKEA or any furniture store. You just can't get the quality that we do.
Right.
Joined up the way we do it with finishes the way. I mean, you can't get what we do anywhere except from us.
Yeah.
We're happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting custom, high quality, like
Handmade
handmade.
for
I mean,
one
that's- yeah.
person.
it's amazing.
It's not coming off a production line. We got hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands and thousands of feet of lumber.
Yeah.
But we just don't even go over and just grab any old board off.
Right.
We spend a lot of time picking each board carefully for where it's going to go, what part it's going into, whether it's a tabletop or a drawer front or the lid of a cellaret.
Yeah.
We want to get the best piece of wood to use in that particular place.
Yeah.
And so that never, that factors into what we do, but it also adds a lot to the construction time.
Sure.
And so we don't, if I'd have worried about how much money I was going to make, I'd have quit this stuff 35 years ago, because we've been able to keep the bills paid.
Yeah.
But I have no savings account.
Sure.
And we got a little bit of money in the bank, but not much. We could last probably about 6 months if we had to. But the satisfaction, as Jay told you, we just finished up. We put the last coat of finish. We use shellac as our primary finish. So we put the last coat of shellac this morning on a set of 10 dining room chairs we made. And they're incredibly pretty.
Yeah.
And very, very difficult to build. So see those 10 chairs sitting there, you just can't beat that feeling, because there ain't too many furniture makers around, especially in small shops like ours, that would even attempt to make a chair.
Yeah.
That's a complicated piece, and we mortise and tenon all of our chairs together, which that term doesn't mean a lot unless you know a little bit about woodworking, but it's extremely hard to do with a chair. Most chairs are doweled together.
Okay.
And the dowels break and come apart. So, but we do the long, hard way. So when we put that last coat today on that last chair and they're all sitting there, I mean, it's an extremely satisfying.
Yeah.
It's about as good as this.
Yeah. Well, here's to that. Do you have pet peeves about furniture trends, or you have opinions or negative opinions? Is it hard for you to go places and see furniture that you don't like?
Yeah. Well, sometimes. People want to paint furniture and stuff like that. Just because it's an antique, it doesn't make it exactly valuable.
Right.
It doesn't make it a great piece.
It doesn't make it a great piece. Like, a lot of people value this great, these old pieces as great pieces, and they're really, I mean, they're not bad. They're better than what you can get today from a store, because they were solid wood.
Yeah.
Or, but they were held together with glue blocks and just not, it was the production stuff.
Yeah.
Earlier on production stuff, but so if people want to paint it, then by goddamn, I let them paint it.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it. I mean, we make painted stuff.
Sure.
We have to paint farm tables a lot,
sure,
the bases, and we made several pieces that were, the whole piece was painted, little hutches and stuff, but.
It's sort of designed to be done that way, though, for that particular piece.
You wouldn't take
your cellaret and just cover it in solid color.
We better not catch you doing that. I tell you what, I give you a real
take it back.
Hey, just a quick editor's note here. We're playing another game that really requires a visual element, so if you want to follow along visually, the YouTube version of the podcast will have the pictures to help you follow along. So you can go over to our YouTube channel at the Bandit Room to watch the video. And with that, we'll get back to the podcast.
Well, we have a little game idea for you guys. So we prepared a few images and wanted to get your takes on some sort of before and after photos for some DIY furniture jobs. And these are just pictures we found online, so you can be as offensive as you want about them.
Yeah. They are.
So they took, what is this? What would you call that, a buffet or a sideboard?
So probably. It could have been a dresser, but probably it's hard to say what that would have been.
Yeah. And when I see it, it looks like, the old piece, the original piece had a bit of character there. They took away the hardware, replaced it with some modern straight line stuff.
I don't dislike the after.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like the before.
Yeah.
So that makes liking the after easier.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
So no issues with that one from Jay. John,
they added some feet, got it up off the floor. That's a good thing.
That is good.
Yeah.
If I had to own one of those two, I'd want the bottom one. I want the after
All
one.
right, all right. So they did a good job. They did
Yeah.
a good job.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's very traditional there.
Yeah. So that one, they kind of just they fix the scratches, they give it a nice varnish or something. Change
Yeah,
the
that's
hardware.
going to be a Sheraton
Okay.
style.
Sure.
I can tell. We can tell exactly from the leg,
Yeah.
the shape of the leg. That's a little turned leg, and also the brass drawer pull. Now, where the glass plastic pull on the right, that's terrible. But
And why do you say that? Is that because they're
because
going
that's
against
not
that
going to
style?
be original. If that's
Yeah.
that pull on the one on the before picture looks
Yeah.
like that could be original.
Yeah.
But the style is good. That's very classic Sheraton right there.
And I did a good job. Whoever had to refinish that.
Yeah, they did well.
All right. All right. Another before after. I don't know what this piece is. It almost looks like a filing cabinet
Yeah.
that they're using as like a console table.
Well, I don't like the after. So
Yeah.
I don't like those patterns, but
I don't care too much for the before.
I
But
don't either. But I
I'm
believe
gonna
I'd
guess
rather
they made a.
have that old finish.
Yeah, I guess it's. I do like the old crackled up finish now. Having grown up in the antique business and been around old stuff all my life,
Yeah.
I like old finishes, but most people don't like old finishes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
If I got to choose between those two, I'm gonna have to choose neither. No, you can have them both.
They eliminated those diamonds on that.
That's up inside that cabinet area. Isn't it?
That's what
That's not
that
a
is. That's the
door.
back of a.
Okay, that's inside.
That's the back of it. Okay.
Looks like it.
Yep, it is.
Okay.
You've got like a hutch design here.
Step
The
back.
original is a little rustic.
Yeah, that's getting more in our neck of the woods there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those both.
Mm-hmm.
I like the paint.
Mm-hmm.
I would take either one of those. though.
Paint works for that piece.
I do. The reason being, back in the day, and I'm talking about colonial time, let's just say 1800, give or take 30 years, a piece like that would have been painted originally
Okay.
because it would have been made out of pine and or poplar. But to make it look good, because pine and poplar, even in those days, were not expensive,
Yeah.
classy wood, they would have painted the piece. Quite often it would have been blue.
So they're not far off.
That's
Would you have
probably-
gone with a more solid color blue rather than this sort of you call it like a shabby chic sort of?
Yeah, I mean, they could have done a little bit
slightly.
better with the hardware,
Okay.
Yeah.
but looks like they just reused the hardware. But that's our very classic. We would call that a step back cupboard. And we have made quite a few very similar to that. We have painted a few of them. The last one we did, I believe, was cherry 3 or 4 years ago. Usually they're a little bit wider and whatnot,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's really is a good looking old piece. I've got one in my house that I made for Jay's mom and my wife. By the way, if we make it till August, we'll have 49 years.
Hey,
married, yeah.
wow.
We're
Congratulations.
not promising 50, but somewhere along the line, I made her, and I call it the Little Red Cupboard.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's
cool.
similar to that.
Yeah, yeah.
The upper section are open shelves, though.
Okay,
No
okay.
glass doors, but it's still what I call a step-back cupboard, which is usually what that's referred to.
Okay.
And I painted it red the day I made it.
Nice.
It's one of my favorite pieces.
Yeah.
Sure did. It's got hardware on it. It's very similar to that, too, because I cheapened out myself. Shoemakers' kids don't have shoes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a vanity of sorts.
Well, that's
painted it
not
blue.
bad. What they did was take something that wasn't too good to begin with and made it a little bit better.
Not
That's
a fan
going
of
to be
the style.
1930s. Yeah,
Yeah.
the 1930s.
Well, the paint looks better than it looks
Yeah, I
better.
think so too.
You know.
Well, Jay and I like paint.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do painted stuff.
Yeah.
If you ask us to.
Yeah.
We don't have anything in our display room that's painted except the couple of table bases, right?
Yeah.
We don't have an entire piece painted in there,
Right.
but we like paint.
Yeah.
We've done pieces
Yeah.
and painted them
Okay.
But here's the thing about paint, and this still goes back to my upbringing and research in his history. Paint was a sign of prosperity.
Okay.
Raw pine, raw poplar, no. Paint was a good thing. You had to have some bucks, some money to have paint. So if the walls of your house were painted or your step back cupboard was painted, that meant you had the means to have that paint, because that was not an everyday thing.
Okay.
So that's why I still like paint.
And certain types of woods, you say, are more take to painting better than others.
Well, poplar was probably used more than anything to be painted.
More plentiful woods.
Yeah, it's cheap. It works well. It's still to this day is available in all kind of widths and thicknesses, but it's still, at the bottom rung.
Gotcha.
That it'd be down to pine. The only problem with pine is if you got the knotty pine type stuff and you try to paint over that, the pine knots will bleed through. So it can create some issues there. But there's ways around that too. But if we're going to do a painted piece for somebody, we're going to use maple, because maple is better than poplar. It paints better and it's sturdier than the poplar.
Okay.
But it costs about twice as much. But still, we're not talking about. I mean, we're accustomed to paying $15, $16, $20 a board foot for walnut.
Gotcha.
A board foot of lumber of any kind is 12 by 12 by 1 inches thick.
Gotcha.
So if you're paying $20 for walnut and you can get a piece of maple for $3.50 a board foot, we get kind of excited because that's lots cheaper.
Gotcha.
And it makes a good job paint-wise.
Gotcha. Have you considered going into forestry with planting some walnut trees?
Too long growing.
Too late.
Yeah, it takes too long.
All right. This is a chair. You don't typically do chair. I mean, like a
we don't do any soft
lounge
goods
chair.
now.
Okay.
The only upholstery type stuff we do is these chair bottoms that we're doing. They're just drop in there. We make a frame. Our upholsterer has to put the fabric on it, but they just drop in there. We wouldn't be able to. Yeah. I've always wanted to make an easy chair. I came real close to trying to do a couple of them many years ago. I researched how you build one and never got it done. You know why those were built that way, don't you? With the big wing. We would call it a wing back.
Wings, yeah, sure.
So they could pull it up to the fireplace and the heat would wrap in there around them.
Ah, it kind of traps the heat.
Right, so you got sides on there.
Ah, functional. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
But that one on the left has definitely seen its better days.
Right.
That's a very nice one. If you see the way the arms scroll out to the left and the right, that's very nice. Good deep wings. It's got an extra little kick in it where the side parts come down and roll again. That's a nice chair. The only other thing you could do with a chair on the left is throw it away. So
Right. That's true.
it costs a fair amount of money to have that covered.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that's nice. I like the fabric too. Okay, well that was fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we make our living with furniture.
Yeah.
We know furniture. We can, if you have an old piece, we can usually date the piece. We can usually tell you what kind of wood it is. Sometimes we have to give you the bad news that it's still a piece of crap just because, just because it's great grandmama's. That doesn't make it good.
Yeah.
It just makes it great grandmama's piece, which is not bad, but construction wise, quality wise, it can still be junk.
Yeah.
The big deal about furniture making was started about 1830 with the Industrial Revolution and the steam engine. Once mechanical power was introduced, virtually all furniture became production made. It's pretty amazing the technology they quickly developed to make some pretty complicated patterns and carvings and stuff. So the people that collect and study American period furniture will not go past 1830. 1830 and back is all they're going to. That's all they're going to deal with, because it was the big factories, which may had one gigantic steam engine that ran rows and rows of stuff, replaced those small shops like Jay and I. there was a little transitional period in there called the Empire period, which ran from about 1830 to about 1860, where it transitioned from strictly handmade, mortise and tenon type stuff, to strictly production made dowels and stuff, because the Industrial Revolution didn't take place overnight.
Right.
It took a while.
Yeah.
But so that's it.
Well, I appreciate y'all coming by. It's been fantastic. It's been educational.
Has
and
it been an hour?
Yeah.
It's
I
been
don't know.
it's been an hour,
It's
hour
been at least
5.
an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
All right. Well, thank you for having us.
Well,
We
thank you.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Any final thoughts? Any notes on how people can look you up?
Well, we have our website, which is it's leakesantiques.com or leakfurnituremakers.com. We used to have a Facebook page under Leak Furniture Makers, and somehow it got gone.
Okay.
I'm not. That was
Yeah.
several years ago. All of a good pick, but I have another page. It's under my name.
Gotcha.
That I try to update as much as I can. But that's probably our Facebook page is the most current thing.
Okay.
But and we have our shop telephone.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
but email us, call us, stop in. We always recommend calling ahead. You're welcome to stop by anytime.
Yeah.
But we would hate for you to make a special trip to our shop and us
Gotcha.
not be there.
Gotcha.
Because we had to close up and come do a podcast.
Gotcha.
in Rock Hill,
We say we're open every day by chance for appointment.
By chance of report. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for joining this episode of the Bandit Room. Stick around next week and see what we talk about.
The Bandit Room is a production of Span Enterprises, located in sunny Rock Hill, South Carolina. We've been developing, supporting, and growing successful IRS e-filing and business management solutions since 2010. Go to spanenterprises.com now to learn more. The views and opinions expressed in the Bandit Room are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect or state the opinions of Span Enterprises. No information should be considered as tax, legal, or other professional advice.